Welcome, everyone. Today's talk called Becoming Entangled and the Bare Necessities. Have you also noticed this strange thing that you can be sitting completely still, nothing obviously wrong, and yet inside everything feels a bit tight, urgent, a bit rushed, like the body is technically physically resting, but the mind is still stuck, revving in traffic. I sometimes think of myself like an island surrounded by water. As the song goes, I'm a rock, I'm an island. I have my books and my poetry to protect me. I'm shielded in my armor, hiding in my room, safe within my womb. I touch no one, and no one touches me. I'm a rock, I'm an island, and a rock feels no pain, and an island never cries. I sometimes think of myself as being like an island, people as islands, surrounded by water, the flowing vast waters of life. I look quiet from a distance, but inside the island, it's a bustling ant's nest. Busy processes are like city traffic, junctions of frustrated ideas jostling and straining for priority, waiting for red light to go green. My mind's hawker stalls are competing for attention, shouting. My brain's scooters race away from the lights, pushily weaving everywhere, delivering their packets of ideas. Just a busy mind island, nothing dramatic, nothing broken, just hyper busy, multitasking. And that's a common kind of stress and suffering, when nothing feels wrong, and nothing feels peacefully well balanced either. Many of us came to practice because we value simplicity. We like the idea of things being clear, uncluttered, human-sized. But we actually end up living endless moments with distracting phones buzzing, relatives and friends unmessaged, decisions and priorities stacking up, more duties and messages waiting, responsibilities overlapping, to-do list piling up, pressure. It's complex, and even if we don't complain about it, and nobody else notices it, the body notices. You can feel it in your shoulders, which rise up, and then, relax. And then, they've ridden up again. They relax. They're up again. In the jaw, in that low-grade sense of urgency that never quite switches off. I've noticed this in my body and mind, especially on days when I'm trying hard to do the right thing, trying to improve, trying to practice properly, trying not to waste time, trying to meet important goals. Nothing extreme, just that quiet pressure that says, oh, come on. In the midst of this, you should be being better than this. So clumsy. Haven't you done that thing yet? Just not good enough, ever. And the funny thing is that pressure doesn't usually come with pure or justified anger. It comes with a sarcastic, negative, irritated inner commentary. Not at anyone in particular, just irritation at existence and conditions. The kettle takes too long. The clip buckles won't snap closed. Fingers fumble. My other hand is holding two things at once, and I'm also gripping a smooth arms bowl under my arm, which might drop at any time. My robe starts sliding off my shoulder. The knot I tied in my belt around my waist has started to come undone. The thing on my laptop is taking forever to download. A couple of people walk a bit slowly in front of you, inconsiderately filling up the whole pavement. Cars barge through, nearly knocking elbows. And suddenly you realize it's not about getting the kettle boiled, or the provider's download speed, or the group of people on the pavement's unaware attitude. It's that something inside hasn't rested, even though the body has stopped. We are away somewhere, ahead of where we actually are. Like the other song lyric, half of the time we're gone, but we don't know where. We're being out of the now, ahead, over there, fixated on an item that seems more important than breathing, more important than our feet on the ground and our connection to this very moment. Noticing breathing, feet on the ground, is not therapy language. In the Pali Canon, it's Sati, remembering, it's mindful recollection. It's sampajanya, it's clear comprehension of what is happening right now. The Buddha repeatedly says that liberation begins before action, at the level of recognizing a mental movement. Then there's another tangle or bind I've noticed. Wanting and needing to rest, but feeling slightly guilty when you do. You sit down, and part of the mind says, great, this is needed. And another part says, you shouldn't be here. You should be doing something useful. You're useless. You're lazy. As the saying goes, don't just do something, sit there. So even rest becomes a kind of work, and exhaustion starts to feel normal, even kind of respectable, a sign of duty done. And underneath all of this is often a quieter wish, a wish for certainty, for things to make sense, for life to hold still long enough for us to feel secure inside it. But life doesn't really do that. It keeps moving, changing, rearranging itself. And the more tightly we try to hold it in place, the more anxious we can feel. None of this means there's anything wrong with you. It just means you're human, living in conditions that are a lot louder, a lot faster, and a lot more demanding than our nervous system was evolved for. So for now, there's nothing to fix, nothing to solve, just noticing. Noticing how even in stillness, the mind can stay uneasy, nervous, vigilant, clenched. And noticing that this, the anxious uncertainty, this quiet bind, is often where real practice actually begins. If I'm honest, I often notice that there is a lot of internal conflict, having incompatible urges simultaneously, that both seem potentially okay. But I can't do both, and they contradict each other uncomfortably, resulting in tension and discomfort. When a situation feels uncomfortably strange, chest tension, shoulder, neck tightness, sick stomach, the mind always splits and pulls in incompatible directions. Not splitting into good and bad, not splitting into right and wrong, but two incompatible urges that both promise relief, and neither one actually delivers it. When we're faced with conflicting choices, it's like the brain's traffic system is dealing with a jam. Some pathways are trying to go one way, some another, and the traffic lights of our decision-making process are trying to sort it all out. And just like a city needs good flow to keep things moving smoothly, our minds still need to find a way to ease that inner congestion so we don't feel stuck between two unsatisfactory choices. Imagine you're in a traffic jam and the only ways out lead you into more, bigger, tighter jams. Neither one really leads you to a peaceful open space, and instead they both lead to more congestion in different directions. Sometimes in life, our minds present us with two choices that both feel a bit like that. Neither path feels like it leads to real peace or real satisfaction. And yet we feel kind of obligated to pick one or the other. I saw this very clearly years ago in Davao, South Philippines. I decided to step back from aid work and focus on classroom Dharma teaching. In a busy part of the city, near a drainage canal, I saw a child climbing up a concrete slope, more or less an infant. I think he had gone there to poop, but instead of poop, bright yellow liquid was leaking from his body, the color of bright yellow paint. Totally unhealthy, maybe not even survivable, and he was trying to crawl back up that concrete bank. And when he looked at me, there was deep fear in his eyes, just a pleading recognition that something was very, very wrong. And I remembered noticing what happened inside me. One part, the first urge, wanted to do something immediately, fix it, intervene, take control, call someone, carry him, solve it. Another part, the second urge, wanted to turn away completely. This is too much. I can't hold this. I don't want to feel this, and it's not my responsibility. And that's the polarity, not compassion versus cruelty, but in that case, two roads, taking control, intervening versus avoiding and disappearance. After all, his parents and a large indigenous community and a hospital were very nearby. So there's the split. War and peace. I've seen this same internal split 1,000 times in much quieter places and domestic times too. Just after lunch, standing in the office maybe, or out in the town or the kitchen. Someone has said something small and has made an action or body language that causes reactions. And inside you, two voices appear. One says, say nothing, just go quiet, withdraw. The other says, okay, enough, that is unacceptable, slam the cupboard, finally just say it. One way, silent avoidance, passive aggression, or the second way, emotional explosion, active aggression. Neither one leads to peacefulness. Or the phone buzzes. A message comes in from a family member. One impulse says, reply now, fix it, clarify everything. Another impulse says, don't open it, don't touch it, maybe it'll go away. Control or avoidance. Neither one actually rests the body. The Buddha repeatedly describes suffering arising from two distorted movements of craving. Kāma-taṇhā, grabbing, fixing, intervening and controlling. Vibhava-taṇhā, aversion, shutdown, disappearance and avoidance. Intervene versus avoid polarity, or control versus avoid, is exactly this. And this is straight from the second noble truth. Even in meditation, one part of the mind tightens and says, try harder, focus properly this time. And another part just collapses and says, this isn't working, I'm done. Effort or giving up. And both feel exhausting. This is the bind. We find the choice is between the two extremes. Do more or disappear. Fix everything or detach completely. Be perfect or become cynical. Some days the heart wants to be the perfect practitioner. Other days it says, this is pointless and none of this really works. And the suffering isn't just in the situation, it's in believing that those are the only options, that these are the only two responses. I'm not going to resolve this just yet. I just want to name it, describe it. Because once you see this pattern, passive and active aggression, you can stop blaming yourself for doing it wrong. You realize the habitual, the automatic mind has been offering false exits. And later, not now, we'll look at what it means to step out of the bind itself rather than choosing a side. What we've been looking at is not vain inner drama. This is our intelligence under pressure, the people who care, the people who try. Under pressure, we swing between extremes because the mind believes at the time those are the only doors available. Hold tighter, get involved, or let go dramatically. Control, or just disappear. Push harder, or give up entirely. Like a pressure cooker with the lid clamped down, or a pot that just was left to go cold and wet. Both are reactions. Neither is freedom. What matters is noticing how quietly it operates and how convincing it feels when you're inside it. We'll come back to this. You can see this everywhere once you start looking. I see it at the market early in the morning. Cars impatiently pushing and tooting through pedestrian areas, already irritated before breakfast. Wing mirrors narrowly missing people's arm. People bump shoulders, mutter apologies they don't really mean. Waiters grumpily moody, voices tightening slightly. Not rude, just compressed. Police arriving without warning and confiscating food carts. Just being bureaucratic and procedural. And everyone stiffens. Small frictions repeated daily. In communities, it's rarely the big conflicts that wear people down. It's the accumulation of tiny pressures. Even in spiritual places, people rush to be calm. You can feel it when somebody bossily says to a peaceful yet curious person seeking peace, you have to register. Shutting people out, closing doors. In India, at this Matrimandir, a huge spherical meditation hall with a high up inner sanctum, our group had ascended the very long interior ramp slowly, arriving in the silence of the inner sanctum. Amongst us, there was a man with an asthmatic breathing problem. He had tubes and a wheelchair. Inside the eerie silence, as we all meditated, the doorman, trying to do his job, stomped past us, aiming at the poor elderly man with his son, hissing and gesticulating at them with rage about the man's audible breathing. even eventually sending him out to sit in the corridor. So just tension with no room, even in this case, to breathe. You see it at retreat centers and at temples and everywhere. Even in places meant for peace, people can feel pressure to perform calm instead of actually being calm. Sometimes it bursts out sideways. A comment like, when I snapped angrily at a helper in the Philippines. We had created a palliative care residence for a dying cancer victim called Gloria at a short distance away, 2 or 3 roads away. One of my helpers, Joy, had breathlessly barged into my teaching session, and I harshly said, "Don't interrupt when I'm teaching, it's rude." Then I calmly was finishing what I was in the middle of, and then turned to her. "Yes, what is it?" "Bante, the house next to Gloria is on fire." "Well, why didn't you say so?" Immediately conflict. Of course, we rushed up the 3 streets, and then all was eventually okay. Gloria was rescued. It's not badness, it's just pressure with no valve. This is the same pattern inside us, inside our minds and hearts, between us, between each other, wanting order and control, and yet experiencing the limits of our freedom, wanting relief, and fearing loss of control. Spiritual devotion without softness becomes strain and stress. Letting go without awareness sometimes results in collapse, and much suffering lives between those 2 poles. So maybe today's practice is just noticing where you're gripping and loosening it 1%. Consider an external issue you have gripped and are holding. Consider this thought. You don't have to solve the pattern. Just don't tighten it. Just loosen your hold. Consider how relieving it would be to be understood and could express to others how you would like to be treated. This is a true story. A black leopard that had been cruelly treated in a circus of performing animals and had lost its trust in humans. It was rescued by a man with a big cat sanctuary for lions, leopards, and cheetahs in another country. But for 6 months, it would not come out of its tiny concrete shelter, growling threateningly at anyone who came near. The kind but concerned new owner and rescuer tried to approach him, but the leopard bit their leg. They brought in an animal communicator called Anna. She psychically communicated with the leopard. The owner was skeptical, but Anna told him that the leopard was concerned about 2 baby cubs that had been in a neighboring cage where he was rescued from. The owner was amazed and confirmed about the 2 baby cubs and was convinced that the communication was real. The communication that transformed the leopard's life was hearing these words. We have no expectations, no pressure. We appreciate you, and we have no demands for you. And from that moment, it all changed. The leopard relaxed, communicated that it was immensely relieved. That day, it came out of its shelter, and from then on explored and relaxed around its large compound, happily. One breath where nothing needs to be fixed or solved is already a taste of freedom. Like the Buddha saying to Bāhiya as he walks along through the marketplace and the bustling street. In the seeing, there is only what is seen. In the hearing, there is only what is heard. The next time irritation appears or a criticism appears, see if you can pause before feeding it. Let the hand open. Nothing to get, nothing to achieve, nothing to do. With that attitude, I have no expectations, no pressure. I appreciate you. I have no demands of you. As the great Greek philosopher Socrates said, to be is to do. The French existential philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre said, to do is to be. And in the words of the great singer Frank Sinatra, do-be-do, do-be-do, do-ba-dee-do. Freedom isn't arrived with effort. It arrives with release. Do you remember the Jungle Book? Look for the bare necessities. There was a wise bear who once taught this lesson. Following the do-be-do theme, in the Jungle Book, Mowgli, when trying to understand what a song is, he was brought up to be a member of the wolf pack, stood straight and stiffly to attention, obediently quoting his verse. A wolf cub must always be this. A wolf cub must always do that. For the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. But the chilled, bumbling bear Baloo tut-tuts and says, "Now, kid, that's not a song. That's just propaganda. Kid, all you gotta do is look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, old Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. So just try and relax. Cool it and fall apart in my backyard. Because let me tell you something. If you act like that bee acts, you're working too hard. Don't spend your time looking around for something you want that just can't be found. When you find out you can live without it, go along not thinking about it. I tell you something true. The bare necessities of life will come to you. They'll come to you. Thank you.